So that's, I think we have to wait a bit for victory, right?
Possibly, I could send him a message.
Okay. All right. So, but I think maybe Shao, is there something you'd like to update us?
Okay, so yesterday afternoon I met with Victory and with Debo. And oh, okay, Victory is joining now. Yeah, I think it's better if Victory explains. I'm a bit confused still by what his simulation environment is that he wants to set up.
Okay, all right, sure.
What I want to address in this meeting kind of is I just want to bring up the fact that my code currently creates these log files of, you know, these ping latencies and bandwidth measurements, which for the release we should probably remove because, you know, the users might, if you're using this over a long period of time, those files can get quite large and they're not really, they don't serve a functional purpose. So we should probably get rid of those.
Turn the logging off, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So Victory, hi, can you hear us?
Yes, good morning.
All right,
everyone.
okay, good
How are
morning.
you?
All right, good. So maybe Victor, you'd like to get started with hosting this thing?
Yes.
All right,
so hi, Shao, Professor Herman.
Hi, Victory.
So yesterday we had a meeting, me, Didi, Shao, and basically figured out what was wrong. Thanks to Shao. It was a very simple problem. But yeah, it was sort of figured out to a certain extent. And what we eventually did was what was suggested by Professor Herman, to create like a subscriber client and a publisher client, and to just isolate that part that does the publishing and and the subscribing. And the idea is just to see how, and actually, it works. I think at least so far it looks like it's working. I just need to make sure that, for example, the publisher client, I need to, and that's where the tests come in now. Like this is, I think the tracking sort of begins from here to say, okay, I just published. In theory, Matcha 1 should have received this message. Then to have sort of, and I'm gonna touch on the point of the login now. I wouldn't necessarily want us to remove it completely. I would want the functionality to be there, but not necessarily hard coded as to what it is logging. I don't know if that makes sense. So basically the logger file should remain in the library. Is it the record.js, for example, and then we can simply just call it when it's necessary. But the idea now is, for example, here, there's the gateway that was started here, and then the matcher was started here. So in theory, this matcher should be receiving the message that was published from this client. And the testing then becomes, okay, we want to compare the results that were received here and then the results received from the matcher and make sure it's the same. That's probably test one. I don't think I sent you the I don't think I sent you the tests that were developed from some I think last month or so, but I will share that with maybe I should put that on the Google.
Victor, sorry, are you sharing your screen now? Because I don't see it. I see it's
really
sharing screen, but can you guys
we see it? Yeah, we see it.
You guys can see it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I can reshare.
Yeah, if you can.
Let me just reshare
that. Yeah, sorry. Might help.
So Victory, is the idea that you will be writing the messages to some log file, but in other words, like each matcher and each client writes what it is publishing?
Yes.
So sorry, maybe I should say each client should write to a file what it is publishing and the area to which it's publishing, and then each client will basically also write to a file what are the messages that it has received. And then you basically have to have some kind of a unique ID for every message. And then basically after, well, you're going to need that,
Okay, I see.
otherwise.
Yeah, you will need that. Yeah, I didn't think of that part, but yeah, we will
I
need
mean,
that. Yeah.
you can use the client ID to, and you can have some like counter for
Like a message loop.
Yes, like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
You start at
Let's
zero.
say
And you
sequence
just
number.
yes, sequence number. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
for the message. And then afterwards, what you can then do is you can have one program load all these log files, and because you know what every publication area is. Okay, you're going to need the subscription areas as well.
Yes.
But if you have that as well, then you can basically just parse all those log files and then basically calculate the what do you call it, the delivery success, if you want to call it that,
Yes.
if messages were delivered correctly or not.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it. Then you don't have to do it on the fly.
That was basically what I was I'm trying to do, and it just means there will be some form of post-processing. I've not really thought so far as to what post-processing tool will be used to analyze that data dump, but the idea is to have all this, yeah. And then we can start with like small tests. It doesn't have to be like thousands of nodes. It can just be 20 nodes. And the idea is we sort of know what node should receive what message. And the idea is, did that node receive the message or not? Like a true or false check.
Yeah.
And if it got it, then it means it's working. If it got only 80%, we can say 80%. There should be some form of timestamp as well when we're logging the data, such that, okay, this was when it was posted.
Yeah, you can use a timestamp. The only catch with the timestamp is that if you're running the clients on different hosts, like physical machines, then they're typically going to use the timestamp of the local machine, and those machines could be synchronized time-wise, but they might not be. So that's one of the reasons when you work out latency, why you usually measure round trip time, and then you assume that the sending the transmission path and the return path is basically equal or the same time. If you have synchronized, like very accurately synchronized hosts, then you could use the timestamp information when you send it and when you receive it to calculate latency. But then you need to synchronize the machines, which is more fun. I mean, you can use something like network time date, like NTP, to synchronize them, but the NTP has, there is some what do you call it, uncertainty. It's not 100%. There's like you could have like a 10 millisecond or a couple of millisecond difference between those times, and that will affect your latency measurements. But yeah, but I think just verifying that everything is being sent correctly, I think is a very good start.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, nice. All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I pushed some updates to both immunology, and I also pushed some updates to my, what do you call it, my fork of the MQTT broker. And then I actually also wrote a publisher and a subscriber for the MQTT client, which does something similar. Yeah, so and then it looks like the visualizer is still working, Charles. There was just one or two things I needed to fix, but the visualizer is working as far as I can tell. So you can see things being published and so on and so forth.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Can we test? Not now, but like, is it something we can run, like just for fun in free time? All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Oh, nice. Something I also wanted to also talk about was something Charles actually brought up yesterday, which was to sort of help with the current sprint. But he wasn't sure, and maybe Charles can come in here as well. He thinks the best place to assist with is maybe with Amit, where he can be the bridge between the front end and the back end side of things.
That sounds good.
Yeah. But
I mean,
yeah, sorry, go on.
I mean, literally what you need. Okay, so let's say Amit has a system. He's implemented the MQTT so that you have a client. you have a message, and you have that message has got a topic, which is a text string basically. You're going to need some kind of a mapping from the text string to a location, and you're going to need the inverse mapping as well. Although you could probably include the channel information in your, you could maybe include it in the payload as well if you want to retrieve that information. So maybe that's not so necessary to have the reverse mapping, but you could do something like have two hash codes, where the one hash code, you take the text string, you hash it, you get a number between 0 and 1,000. That's your X coordinate, and then you have a different hash code, and if you hash that gives you your Y coordinate. And the reason why you want to use a hash code is because then you know that for a specific text string, you're always going to get the same numbers out, which is what you want. And once you have that, you have a way of translating your room or your topic string into a XY coordinate, right? And if you have that, it means that then you can basically make channel-based pub/sub into spatial-based pub/sub. It just means that on the front end side, what's going to happen is someone wants to subscribe to a room name or a topic, you basically have to translate that into a XY coordinate, and then from that point onwards, anything to do with that channel is associated, has to do with you use the XY coordinates for that. But that's one way of having channel-based pub/sub, but underneath it's actually spatial-based pub/sub. If that makes sense.
It does actually.
And you follow, Charles?
So I actually have a question about that. So I understand how you can represent sort of this spatial area, you can have a serialized data structure, just a string representation of it. My question is the MQTT broker, so I know that VAST is sort of an underlying layer here, but the MQTT broker is still responsible for actually forwarding spatial publications to the clients, right?
No, okay, so what happens is that you have a client, which is the front end, which is Amit is basically building. That uses the MQTT protocol to connect to a broker on a specific port. Okay, whatever the port number is. Okay. Then so actually the clients do not need a location at that time. I mean, they can have a location, but they don't actually, you don't need to know their locations. But then what happens is that if a client subscribes to a room, let's say, I don't know, soccer or whatever, you're basically just translating the name, the text string soccer to an XY coordinate. And you can think about, you have a virtual area, and then different text strings will have different positions in this virtual area or whatever. Now, the broker has a matcher associated with it, right? And that matcher is just somewhere in the space. Well, I don't care at this stage where that matcher is. So each MQTT broker basically has a corresponding matcher as well. And these matcher as virtual locations so that you can basically route spatial messages in between. And basically what happens is each time a client subscribes or publishes using MQTT, that's basically then passed to the matcher. And then the matcher says, oh, this publication needs to go to that area, or this subscription needs to go to that area, and so on and so forth. So you're not going to have any type of load balancing. You're not going to have any in terms of the clients, because the clients, I mean, you think about it, the clients don't actually have a virtual location in the system because they just connected to a broker. And which broker they're connected to is basically determined by, the URL of the broker they happen to use to connect to. I mean, the reason we're doing this is simply to basically have a spatial-based chat app. So we're kind of forcing the spatial publish subscribe in there, just as a way of showing that, yes, it could work to do this type of a routing. Now I think in a practical system, what you want to actually do is you want to have that your clients also have a location, and then you're going to have some kind of way of via MQTT having, migrating clients between different brokers. So you'll have to somehow send a message via MQTT to a client saying, oh, you're actually connected to the wrong broker, please connect to this other broker, and then there's some kind of a migration process. But,
yes, sir.
but as long as
another problem.
But that's
Okay.
that just gives you load balancing on your brokers. That's what that's going to give you.
Okay, but my other question is when we actually do the practical implementation of clients when we get to the point where clients could actually subscribe to areas, so if clients become directly interested in real spatial data, then I don't think it will be as simple to just transform these areas of interest into strings, because
so when you get to the point where you actually want to basically what happens there, if I'll send you a link to the broker information. Literally, you can see what you basically do is the topic name is basically the spatial coordinates. It's an X and a Y and a radius that you're sending. That's basically
Yes,
the topic name.
What my question is, you can have overlapping publications
Yes.
that don't have exactly the same X, Y, and R. So how
Yes.
would the MQTT broker forward that message if the topic isn't an exact match? Because spatially that topic would be a match, but with your string representation, your X and your Y could be like 1 unit off, but it still falls within the circle. But the MQTT broker.
Yeah, Shunyun, you wanted to say something.
Oh yeah, I think an easier way to understand this is to treat the MQTT server simply as what in the web world called the proxy server.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Right. I think. Michelle, are you familiar with proxies, like web proxies?
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
proxies, they simply, well, I mean, in the purest sense, proxies, they simply receive requests and they just forward to
Okay.
to the actual whatever is processing. And, proxies serve in the web world, they could cache web pages so that redundant requests can be avoided, I think the MQTT server now, well, it's not really like the web proxy, but it's kind of like that. And I think in the VSO paper, I don't know if you read that, there was the concept of what's called the entry server. Okay.
Yeah.
An entry server, in fact, are like its name, it's an entry point into the spatial virtual world where you are doing spatial PubSub. So a client actually connects always to the same entry server. Okay. And while the entry server would subscribe or unsubscribe, to different matchers, okay, on behalf for the client. Okay, are you with me so far?
Okay.
Okay, so if you treat entry servers like a proxy, essentially it is a proxy on behalf of the client. Okay, so that is the point, the entity that's actually doing the actual publish and subscribe request to potentially different matchers.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, are you getting it so far?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So
All
the
right.
clients aren't connected. The clients are all connected to the same entity.
Exactly.
Server.
Well, the clients will connect literally and actually ideally to the closest entry server. That is, in terms of geography, in terms of latency, because that's what you want, right? Like all the players in South Africa, for example, they will connect to some South African entry servers, right? And
Yes.
but what happens is we also assume that the entry servers, they potentially have better, latency, shorter latencies with the other matchers. Okay, and the matchers potentially they can locate, like around the world, literally.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in this kind of architecture, I think the MQTT approach we're doing actually works very nicely with, because it can act literally as an entry server, you see, into the, should I say, the peer-to-peer network of matchers,
Yes.
into the
Yeah.
matchers network,
Yeah.
The matchers, they form a fully distributed peer-to-peer network.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it can be a global network, literally. Okay.
Yeah.
But the entry or the MQTT server, they can just serve as the entry point or the proxy on behalf for the different clients. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
if you think about these topics as being a point publication, right? Then I'm assuming that each time a client is going to subscribe to a certain topic name, it's going to then do a very, very small area subscription around that topic. So the idea is that
Right.
if you subscribe to 10 rooms, then basically you will have 10 subscriptions, and those subscriptions will just be like spread out over the virtual topic space, if you want to call it that. And so I think you're concerned about if the radius of subscription is too big, then you might be subscribing to topics which you don't want to be subscribed to. But if you make your subscription area very small and you regard each topic as a point, right? And you do a point publication, then that should be fine.
Okay.
But this is just, so remember, this is just a vehicle to show that, hey, we can do chat, and underneath we're actually doing a spatial kind of a routing. If it was like a spatial application like ride hailing or getting temperature sensors or something like that, then we would just use the actual coordinates. We wouldn't use this, call it a hack if you want, to basically translate text information or chat or topic names into virtual locations.
Okay. So okay. I'll ask you more about this in another meeting.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Great. All right, Victor. So maybe
All right.
can continue.
All right. Thanks.
By the way, Victor, did you? Was it making sense?
Yeah, no, I am following now.
Okay. Good.
My initial concern around the embedding the location in the request was there might have been a bottleneck or something, but then I realized that we're actually doing it specifically for the chat app and not necessarily for the final iteration of the then
right.
All right. No, that's fine. Sorry, I just added this. Basically, I need to build this a little bit. I just realized I could actually draw some of the test cases on paper where I could show like one node, many matches in a specific area, and then specify the coordinates of that area, and then do tests for overlap. If it exceeds the boundaries, does the message still receive? Stuff like that. Then do it again, draw another graph, and I think I would do that next. Then draw another area, show two matches in XY coordinates, and basically design a test to show if messages have been received, if maybe say a request overlaps multiple matches or multiple nodes, and see what happens there. And then I think that's the next step for me. I've not reached out. Sorry.
Once you have that, you or someone else can implement those test cases, because since you have a matcher now, so since you have a publisher and a subscriber now, and once you have the ability to log all publications and subscriptions and messages that you receive, it means you can process that for correctness. So then you can design whatever scenario you want, and someone can just go and say, okay, let's go and implement the scenario. Here's the log files. Let's do the analysis. Is it accurate? Does it work?
All right. Sounds
Cool.
good. No worries. All right. With Amit. Oh, sorry. Okay. I don't know if I should follow up on him on this. I also don't know if Charles wants to reach out to him, or I did what's the word? I did suggest perhaps I reach out to him, and then I can set up a session with me, you and him, perhaps sometime today or tomorrow. I don't know if that's okay with Charles.
Yeah, no, that's
but-
good.
Okay. So we can just discuss in terms of how you can assist on what he's doing so far and how we can bridge the gap between the front end and the back end side of things. Just to confirm, sir, Simon, did you say you pushed the code to the immunology GitHub, or you're muted? Sorry.
Yes, I pushed it this morning. So
Oh, nice. Nice.
yeah, so it's still under dev CFM, and then at some point, when I just want to make certain that both the NQTT side and the normal spatial side is working in correctly and independently of each other, and then I'm going to basically merge that dev CFM branch back into the dev branch.
Nice. Nice.
Cool.
All right. All right. So,
Excellent.
I was actually curious. Yesterday after we discussed, merging branches, the code that Migros worked on, how far have we? Is it basically this what we have now? For example, on the dev CFM branch, is it basically like a continuation of that? Or
No,
is it
it's
like,
basically continuation of a slightly earlier version of the of where Miguel was, but I think it basically implements everything that Miguel had implemented.
okay, so it's not necessarily a deviation per se. Okay.
So I guess just to confirm with Herman, are you saying that there may have been some commits in the current diff branch that are newer, which doesn't exist on the current shells, the CFM branch?
No. So I think that there is. So if you want to think about it, there's the dev branch, Miguel, there's a point in time where Miguel had worked and implemented some Minecraft spatial pub sub stuff, but that was too integrated with Minecraft. So instead of Charles going from this point onwards, he basically went back a bit and basically worked from that stage on.
Right.
So you
right.
can, yeah. So
Okay,
there will
yeah.
be some, so if we merge back in there, it will basically be, there's some work there that will be not continued, if you want to think
I
about
see.
it like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
So
But
potentially the merge,
yeah,
just to confirm, so the merge conflict might occur in some of the Migros work
yes,
specific
yes, yeah,
to the Minecraft server, correct?
yes, yeah.
Okay, okay.
But
So maybe
I
that
have
part can be disabled, right? I mean, for now.
yes, yeah. I have
During the
I have
merge.
another final year student who basically implemented a spatial pub sub architecture for Minecraft itself,
Oh,
using
really?
the
Okay.
using this spatial pub sub API as that we defined, and basically I just need to test that what he did actually works with Vast as we know it, and then we should have the Minecraft version as well. But that's a separate conversation.
Okay, very nice. Okay.
Okay. It's nice stuff. So if someone wanted to implement the Minecraft stuff on the current implementation or the current merge, how is it gonna be? Would that person need to create like a whole new thing, or can they just build on what?
No, so the whole idea is that they can basically just download the Vast
Download it.
library and then basically run that as a bunch of matchers, and then they have proxies specific to Minecraft that basically act like clients that subscribe and publish into the spatial pub sub communication architecture. That's kind of the whole point of this whole exercise, is to keep the Vast library application agnostic.
Right, agnostic of the actual implementation, right? That's
Yes,
underneath.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of having interface. have a well-defined difference. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Yeah, it's definitely the fun stuff. Let's leave that work. So I just wanna...
Yeah, so for releasing Spat, the spatial chat app, I literally think the only thing we still need is we need confirmation that the SPS works correctly. And the more I work with it over the past couple of days, the more confidence I have that yes, does actually work correctly. We need a Meet to finish the front end, and then we need that bridge between MQTT and the topics, and we need the MQTT integration of Spat, and then we basically need the translation of the topic to a virtual location, and then I think we can demonstrate a chat app based on spatial routing.
Oh, nice. That's very nice. Okay. Because yeah, I mean, if that can be done, then yeah, basically that we have an actual app that's using the spatial routing part of the VAST library, right?
It's definitely a beta release. I mean, right? I mean, there's definitely inefficiencies there. There might be superfluous logging information or debugging information there, but it would work functionally at least.
Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. So, Victor, you like to, I guess, okay. So basically,
I'm just trying to set up.
Okay.
Yeah, so Amit is implementing the chat, and he's doing the MQTT integration. Alida had some issues with the visualizer, and I basically gave her some pointers yesterday afternoon. I also told her, just send a message to Charles on Slack, and he might be able to help you. And then, yeah, you're still working on the testing environment. Yeah. So I think Charles doing that, yeah, checking with Amit about the front end and and basically doing that translation from the topic name to a spatial location, and basically just how that can work. I think it would be useful if you can help him with that. I think you're going to have to embed the topic in the message as well, because then you can basically just extract that, and then on the receiving side, when it basically needs to publish it to the right, using MQTT. Otherwise, you need something which translates XY positions back to string numbers, and I think that might be more difficult to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is it okay if I leave the meeting now, because I kind of need to do other things?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Actually, we should wrap up. Yeah.
We're
That's
wrapping up now.
okay.
Yeah, we'll just,
So,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charles. Yeah,
Thanks, Charles. Thanks so much.
So,
Cool.
I guess any feedback from Herman? With today's,
I think this looks good. Develop test case, draw scenarios, implement developer continued, yes, and then just that part of Charles down below, which if you can just scroll down slightly, yes, good, and just go up again. I just want to see what just go up slightly again. Matches 100 nodes. Yes, that sounds good. Cool. Excellent.
all right, great. Okay, so thanks. Thanks a lot, Victoria and Herman.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think we are towards the first prototype now. Yeah. That's really
Very
exciting.
close.
Okay,
Exciting
cool.
stuff.
So kick off. All right. So thanks.
Chat.
Thanks, Victoria,
Chat.
and thanks, Herman. Yeah. Talk tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Sorry.
Yes.
One thing about tomorrow is I might have to take a leave. There's
Okay.
a limited, so I'm thinking of making this up on maybe one of the Fridays. And just to confirm, we did not have mastermind last Friday. So
we're having
Herman,
it.
Yeah,
8
this
o'clock.
Friday.
Friday.
That'd be all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
At 8 o'clock.
8
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Cool.
All right. So take
Cool.
care.
Do we want Debo and Amit to be part of the mastermind?
I think if you don't mind, it would be good to
Yeah,
invite.
yeah, I'm
them as
fine with
well.
that.
Okay.
I'm
okay.
fine with
And
that,
I'll
yeah.
send a message. Yeah, I'll send a
Okay,
message.
cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Okay.
All right. Thanks. All right. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.